This is kind of an annoying question for number 5. It looks messy right from the start, and my reaction to this kind of messy looking algebra is to arithmetize. I'm really good with the strategies, and honestly, I think that your first reaction should probably be to arithmetize too. It's a good way to respond to complicated algebra. And basically what it means is we're going to pick some numbers for these variables. Now, what I would pick is going to be the easiest thing possible. One for both of these values, x and y, is going to mean that basically all the variables just kind of disappear, right? 1 squared times 1, like all that stuff is just going to become 1s. And so I can very, very quickly rewrite this expression with 1s in place of the x's and y's and not really have to do a lot of math. So that's why I would do this first, is I'd say, okay, x squared y, well that's 1 squared times 1, which is 1. 3 times 1 squared is 3. And so you can see the pattern is everything is just going to become the coefficient. And that then can be simplified really fast, right? So 1 minus 3 is negative 2. Negative 2 plus 5 is 3. And then here we've got the 3's are going to cancel. We're going to get negative 1. And then 3 plus 1 is 4. And so that's my magic number. I want answer choices that also equal 4 when I put 1 in for x and y. And when I do that, again, the letters go away very quickly and I'm left with just those coefficients. So it's very easy for me to tell that A works, that B does not work, that C works, and unfortunately, 2 plus 8 is 10, minus 6 is 4. So D also works. So this happens with arithmetize sometimes. We pick some easy numbers because, well, they're easy. And we hope for the best, but sometimes it fails. And normally we have another way to continue with this. We would just pick new numbers for my x and y and then use those numbers instead. And since those numbers will be more complicated, this question is going to be more complicated. And so this is a point where I would abandon ship, okay? Arithmetize is not going to be the most efficient way to solve this because of the exponents. If there's 1 or 2 exponents in a question and we're trying to arithmetize, it's not a big deal, because we can handle some numbers, like 2 squared isn't really going to bother us. But there's a lot of exponents in this, right? Every single term has exponents. And so it's just going to get really big and the arithmetic is going to get really annoying. And so this is a case where the most efficient way to do this is to use algebra. But if you arithmetized and tried it, I don't want you to feel like, oh, well, I failed or the strategy failed. This is why you practice. I would rather you try arithmetize on 10 questions where you could use it, and it failed 1 or 2 times, than for you to be so scared to try something new that you'd never get good at using these strategies. The strategies will absolutely be more efficient in most cases. Here's the exception, but don't let the exception influence how you apply the rule, okay? Here, I start to recognize where the problem is anyway. Just the arithmetize didn't take long, but it also kind of showed me where I'm likely to mess up. It's this negative right here. And so this is another important piece of the SAT, right, is we need to show our work, not just because it's good to do it, but because we know that the question is designed to trap us on certain kinds of steps. So here, I recognize that the question is trying to make me mess up distribution, right? I've got this negative, and it's got to be distributed to all parts of this term. And they're really hoping that I mess that up, because I know if I do mess it up, one of those answers is going to be there. That's the wrong answers that you would get from a distribution mistake are going to be answer choices. And so we would make a mistake and not even know it. So when you show your work, it's really important not to kind of skip steps here. Do everything because they're hoping that you mess this up, and so you don't want to do too much work at once. So that my first step is literally only going to be the distribution. So these other numbers at front where there's no distribution, they just kind of get written down again. That's okay. Now the 2 negatives make a positive, so it's plus x squared y. That becomes negative 3xy squared and positive 3y squared. Now that I've written all that work and I've done that step correctly, I might go back and check it right now just to make sure. But once I've checked, I can see that I have some terms that are going to start to combine. Negative 3y squared plus 3y squared is going to cancel out. That's good. X squared y plus x squared y, that doesn't cancel. They combine to get me 2x squared y, and then 5xy squared and negative 3xy squared is going to be 2xy squared, which is choice C. So look, could you have gotten that a little bit faster by not arithmetizing it first? Sure, and it's good if you did. But if you made the mistake because of the distribution, then something has to change in your process. And I think arithmetize is a good long-term strategy to make algebra easier. But on top of that, there will be places where it doesn't work, and you need to learn which algebra steps you tend to mess up the most. Distribution is one of mine. So I was very nervous on this question. Some people just lose a lot of negatives. Some people hate fractions. Some people can't factor correctly. There's lots of different places where it could go wrong, and you need to kind of look for those patterns in yourself. And when you see it happening on a question, you need to be extra vigilant, because if you make that mistake, you're not going to know because the wrong answers will be there. These test questions are not random. They're purposely designed to kind of catch you making the most common mistakes. So with that in mind, show your work, show every step, and you're less likely to get caught.